I'm Mike Harlan. I've been a volunteer at Golden Corner Food Pantry since 2015, and I'm the chairman of the board for the past 2.5 years. And I was also a panelist on the 2020 Oconee Food Summit. And today I'd like to talk about 4 things about the food pantry: who we are, who we serve, the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on operations and demand last year, the expanded role we played after the devastating tornado in Seneca in April, and then just a brief look towards the future. Golden Corner Food Pantry's mission is to provide emergency and supplemental food to low-income residents of Oconee County. The food pantry was started in 1985 when local churches and agencies combined to centralize food distribution to the needy. The food pantry's grown from serving fewer than 100 households in 1985 to serving an average of 844 households in 2020. Over 150 active volunteers collect donated food, unload, sort, and package the food for distribution, as well as receive and interview clients. Depending on availability, typical distribution includes a balanced mixture of canned foods and staples, fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh breads and desserts, milk, eggs, and frozen meats. The amount of food each client receives varies based on the size of the household. We provide over 1 million pounds of food per year to clients. Over half of this food is picked up from our grocery store partners at Publix, Walmart, and Food Line. The rest comes from local food drives or is purchased from local wholesalers or the Second Harvest Food Bank using donated funds. Donations come from individuals, local churches, civic groups, businesses, and grants. In general, clients can receive food from the pantry if they live in Oconee County and they have a combined gross income for the entire household of less than 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. And clients may come to the food pantry once every 30 days for food. We have 2 food distribution programs. Our Food for Families program provides food to individuals and families for all age groups. And our Food for Seniors program specifically targets clients aged 60 or older in households of 1 or 2. The Food for Seniors program operates on the 1st through the 4th Mondays, and it's a drive-through program. The Food for Families program operates Tuesdays through Friday, as well as the first Saturday each month, and includes a one-on-one interview with our volunteers each time the client visits. And this program is currently operating as a drive-through due to the COVID pandemic, but we hope to return to our regular face-to-face meetings with clients as soon as possible. As you might imagine, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and the nearby tornado in April have presented us with many challenges. But as we sit here today, with the help of many, the Golden Corner Food Pantry has remained open throughout 2020 and continues to operate safely on our normal schedule. It's been a year of change, adapting and rolling with the punches. 2020 began as a typical, predictable continuation of 2019. Then in mid-March, everything changed quickly in response to the COVID-19 virus. On March 14th, the pantry instituted the CDC recommendations for safety precautions. Then a couple days later, on March 18th, we totally altered our operation, serving 100% of our clients using a drive-through process, which was very much like the process we use for our Senior Mondays. This significantly reduced the number of people in the building, thereby reducing the number of close interactions and eventually increased the speed of fulfillment. Then on April 4th, consistent with the latest CDC guidance at the time, we added the requirement to wear face coverings at the pantry. And along those same lines, we had 3 of our volunteers who just endlessly made hundreds of masks for use for our volunteers and clients over the next several months. Food procurement was a challenge in late March as the food rescue donations from the grocery stores fell to almost nothing because they didn't own anything on their shelves at the beginning of the pandemic, as everyone was buying things up. So thankfully, the local farmers and businesses stepped in and supported the pantry in the interim by donating fresh, locally grown produce and food that they produced on site. Some of the farmers and businesses that helped us included Chris Simpson at Natural Farms of the Carolinas, who donated box upon box upon box of lettuce. Luke Brown and his young daughter Emily from McLadkey Orchards donated turnips. Mike Laddermilk of Ladder Branch Farms donated eggs, and Mike was actually my first call as we kind of got into this situation because I just met him a few weeks earlier at the last meeting of the Oconee Food Summit, so that came in very handy. Corvabella donated sausage. Pepinos donated 1,000 frozen pizzas, which were intended for sporting events at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta that got canceled. And the Village Bakery in Pendleton baked 60 loaves of fresh white bread, sliced every day for 2 weeks. And we bought that bread at a greatly reduced price from them, which enabled them to continue to pay their baker and obviously provided bread for us to give to our clients. So it was kind of a win-win. So we had a couple of weeks with these new outdoor procedures in place when, bam, 3:35 a.m. Eastern Monday, April 13th, EF3 tornado rips through Seneca within a quarter mile of the pantry. You all know the devastation was really beyond words. I mean, there was no damage to our facility, but the power was out for 6 days. So we were technically closed on the Monday of the tornado because you couldn't really get to our area of town. But despite that, several volunteers still reported for duty, and they served actually over 20 clients that day. And with the power out, Jeff Heaton, our executive director quickly procured a 26-foot refrigerated truck in Greenville. And with the help of the volunteers, we quickly transferred all the valuable frozen meat and refrigerated milk and eggs that we had in our walk-in refrigeration units to that truck. The next day, Tuesday, the city of Seneca asked us to be the hub for food donations and distribution to aid tornado victims. So we expanded our hours immediately from 10 to noon Monday to Friday to now 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. And our volunteers quickly responded to the call to fill these 80-plus additional hours over the next 2 weeks. The community was absolutely amazing with donations of food and financial aid. Local groups provided the food pantry, food parcels directly to families in the impact zones, and churches and other organizations prepared sandwiches and hot meals for distribution on a daily basis. So at the height of these efforts in the first week following the tornado, we estimate that we were providing food directly and indirectly to nearly 1,000 people per day. This experience also showed us a vulnerability to a long-term power outage that we had not fully calculated. And in June, through a grant, Kathy Carroll, president of the Seneca Lions Club, helped the food pantry purchase a new commercial generator, which will enable the pantry to operate safely and without interruption for decades to come. For the first quarter of 2020, when unemployment was 3%, we were serving over 1,000 households per month. And as unemployment in the county grew to 11% in May and June, we anticipated the needs would increase, as it did at the height of the Great Recession. However, we didn't see an increase in 2020. As a matter of fact, we saw a decline in clients. So after calling and speaking to many clients early in the summer, there were a few reasons that stood out for that reduction in visits. Some were self-quarantining. Others were receiving the increased unemployment benefits. Others were receiving increased SNAP or food stamp benefits. And others were just getting additional help from family members. But many of these enhanced federal programs have now been extended into late 2021. But regardless of what happens going forward, if these federal programs end or are reduced, we'll be ready to meet an increasing demand and feed all those that need us. The volunteers have been amazing. They've truly been up to the task of going above and beyond all year. Everyone at the pantry has been faithfully following the safety guidelines. Some of our volunteers had decided to stay home during COVID-19, which was the right decision based upon their age or underlying health conditions. And we've been blessed with a number of new volunteers that have stepped forward to help out, and we are so grateful to have them. Except for our one paid position of executive director, all the work is done by volunteers. We have no mortgage, we don't use professional fundraisers, so the money that's donated goes to provide food. And the food we purchase is bought at greatly reduced prices. So in conclusion, we can't help but feel good about what was accomplished in 2020. But as we look ahead, we know we still have work to do. In 2021, the food pantry will be exploring ways that we can expand our reach. So for example, how do we provide access to food for seniors that can't get to us? How do we get the word to SNAP participants that if they qualify for SNAP benefits in Oconee County, they would qualify for additional food from the food pantry as well, and enabling them to put their limited income towards other expenses. So I think one thing I walk away from 2020 is that we are so lucky to live in such a caring and giving community. And we saw it in so many ways again and again last year. And it's incredibly heartwarming to see all these people who just wanted to find a way to help, who come together and ensure that our neighbors have ample and healthy food to eat. And we feel blessed at Golden Corner Food Pantry to be one part of that mission. And thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Blake. I've been asked to speak with you today about Our Daily Bread, which is a soup kitchen in Seneca, South Carolina. I've been a board member since March of 2019, and I also served on the planning committee for the Oconee Food Summit alongside Ansley Frazier, a former Our Daily Bread board member and current volunteer. Through an entirely volunteer board and staff, free lunches are served every day from 11:30 till 12:30 p.m. The soup kitchen actually started in 1992 as an event called Feed the 5,000. That's held on Thanksgiving. And the founders, Jerry and Pat Lee, that was their vision, to feed the hungry every Thanksgiving. And it has basically grown to providing about 2,000 meals every Thanksgiving. That was in 1992. In 1996, Our Daily Bread began serving meals 5 days a week because they just decided, well, why can't we do this every day? So they started with 5 days a week. In 1997, Our Daily Bread became a 501c3 organization. And ever since, they have been able to provide meals every day of the week. Our dedicated day captains lead volunteers through meal service Mondays through Fridays. And then we have various organizations who cover Saturdays and Sundays. Our board is led by Chairman Richard Ledford, who is in his 26th year. And he has done an outstanding job managing Our Daily Bread, creating a stable and solvent nonprofit organization. In March of 2020, as we all know, the governor's executive orders came down with restrictions for restaurants. And our chairman notified our day captains that we would close for a few days the week of March 16th to evaluate if and how we could continue to serve in a safe manner and be socially distanced and all of those things. Our chairman worked closely with Mayor Alexander that week. Part of his evaluation process for the board was speaking and communicating with Sheriff Mike Crenshaw, Representative Thomas Alexander. They were all involved about how we could serve to-go meals instead of cafeteria-style meals, which we've traditionally done, while ensuring we were within the guidelines and not causing issues by having potentially large groups of people at our facility. So this due diligence also included a visit to a soup kitchen in Greenville that already had their COVID procedures in place. And we did follow what they were doing. When we started back serving meals again, we handed bag lunches out the front door basically to start, just to provide meals. And then to-go meals were started the following week when we had the materials and supplies necessary. We continue to provide lunches on a daily basis in this manner, with our Daily Bread volunteers working Monday through Fridays, while Christ Central Ministries, church groups, and various local organizations, they do serve Saturdays and Sundays. Now, due to the virus, the number of volunteers participating was reduced by about half. We went from about 150 volunteers to 75 approximately. And many of our volunteers are senior citizens, and so they were being very cautious for health reasons. Thankfully, the move to serving to-go meals, it doesn't require as many volunteers, so we have been successful. The number of meals that we were serving pre-COVID averaged about 95 to 100 meals a day. That number did drop pretty dramatically. On average, we started seeing about 65 meals served. And then, of course, the tornado occurred on April 13th. And after that, community groups got together and were serving, a lot of free meals, not only for those impacted by the tornado, but for those who came to assist and with the recovery. So also we're seeing the schools, the school district, they were providing meals and distributing those to the community. I would actually see, when I was going to work, I would see the buses in the church parking lots. They were there to distribute those meals, so that was nice to see. Now, around September of last year, our number of meals started to increase again, and that, I think, did coincide with some individuals not receiving unemployment benefits any longer. It could have been for, other reasons, but I know that was another, factor that did play in there. Now, with Feed the 5,000 being our founding event, it was unfortunate that we had to cancel that event last year. We just didn't feel like we could do it safely, because in order to make that happen and serve 2,000 meals in one day, it takes about 200 volunteers, and we were concerned about bringing all of those people together, and then, of course, the people receiving the meals, that would be higher numbers than were allowed under the COVID restrictions. But we are hopeful, and I think we will be able to have that event this year with the vaccines and the gene therapies being distributed and administered. We should be able to carry on with business as usual this year, but we do want to revisit that. We do want to build some resiliency there and examine how we could make that happen should another anomalous event occur. Now, the population of ODB, or our Daily Bread, the populations we're serving, they include every age group. It's really a thing to realize when you're working there and handing out meals that about 40 to 50% of these individuals are experiencing a state of homelessness. This can be, very stressful and dramatic. We did actually lose a gentleman. He passed away next door to the food pantry in January of this year. This gentleman, Bobby Whitfield, he was a veteran. And it seems that in this country, a country that he served, he should not have been allowed to fall into a state of homelessness. It's very difficult to, experience in a lot of cases. We want to reach out to these individuals. The only way we're going to be able to help them is to meet them where they are and talk to them, learn their names, speak to them and find out what their challenges are, because they do have a dream of having a safe, warm, and dry permanent residence, and we do need to provide, resources to help them make that happen.
Hi, my name is Michael Thorsland, and I am the Superintendent of Schools in Oconee County, South Carolina. And we have a pretty big role to play with food in the county, and particularly students. However, our main objective as a school district is to educate students. Now, to keep kids in our buildings from, say, 8 to 3 each day, we have to provide some additional services that are maybe outside of instruction. For example, transportation, getting students to and from school. Another big part of that is food, because to keep students engaged in the classroom, they have to have full stomachs. So that means that they have to be fed while they're in our buildings. About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we made the decision that we weren't food experts and we needed help with that. So we essentially subcontract our food service aspect of our district to Sodexo. They were selected, I think, 10 years ago. And that brings me to introduce Ms. April Howe, who is our general manager from Sodexo.
I've been with Sodexo about 15 years now. Sodexo is a worldwide leader in food and facilities management. It was founded about 50 years ago. We service 64 countries with about 400,000 employees. So it's safe to say that we are experts in food and nutrition. We are very pleased with the partnership with the school district and very excited to see what the future holds for us.
The United States Department of Agriculture sponsors the National School Lunch Program. As a public school district, we are part of that, and we receive a good bit of money from the federal government to help pay for meals for students who can't afford it. In Oconee County, in a typical year, we're probably between 55 and 60% of our students that participate in the National School Lunch Program. So they get either free or subsidized meals. So we get a good bit of money from that. And then the other portion of money we get for food is from students whose families don't qualify for that USDA program, and they just pay for their meals. If they come to lunch and want to buy a piece of pizza or buy a meal, they do that with cash or through pay ahead, and then a kind of a declining balance deal in our cafeterias. But we use that money then to pay Sodexo, because Sodexo as a private company cannot get money directly from the federal government, so that comes through the school district. We use the money to then pay Sodexo, and they provide our meals.
And we host the National School Breakfast and the National School Lunch Program. We also host after-school programs, so we have an after-school snack program and a dinner program. So we reach a tremendous amount of students with all the programs that we provide. The federal government doesn't just give the school district money. There's obviously standards that we have to meet. So we look at reimbursable meals, so each meal has certain components that we have to serve. So that's where our expertise sort of comes in, making sure that we're serving the right meals to as many students as we can. In school year 1920, we saw about 50% of our students were participating in our lunch program, and about 27 to 30% were participating in breakfast. This year, due to USDA waivers allowing every student to eat for free, we have seen a marked increase in breakfast participation. Breakfast has increased up to about 45% of students. Lunch has remained about the same, but around 55% of students are eating lunch now. So we're very pleased to see an increase in participation, most likely as a result of every student having the ability to eat for free.
Yeah, so as we film this, it's the 1-year anniversary to the day of Governor McMaster closing the schools in South Carolina. And I remember really kind of just being panicked, because in addition to having to figure out how to deliver instruction to students at home, getting Chromebooks out to them and getting the teachers in communication with their students, we also had the concern of feeding our students. April got her staff together, we got our staff together. What the school district did is organize the bus drivers and organize staff members to ride the buses, and we figured out a way to get food out to our families. It took one day to plan. The governor closed schools on Sunday. We met and planned all the logistics out on Monday, and Tuesday we were delivering food.
We immediately had staffing concerns. Who was willing to work during a pandemic? Who needed to be home with their children who were school-aged? So staffing was a major concern. We had a huge obligation to 10,000 school-aged students to continue providing food, because we were their primary source of food every day of the week. So a huge obligation there. So once we crossed those hurdles of planning and meeting and staffing, then you also start to have the hurdle of food procurement. So we can't get produce, we can't get milk. Paper supplies are running low because everyone across the country is relying on styrofoam and plastic bags and plastic cutlery. So you name it, it was a hurdle to be crossed.
I remember driving to Sam's Club and purchasing plastic bags by the box full so that we could send bag lunches. And we started, we got better as we learned, but we started providing meals, one meal at a time. So the buses would run twice a day and we would give one meal out to kids. And then we quickly realized this is not an efficient use of our resources. So we started providing multiple meals with every bus delivery. We would provide 2 lunches and 2 breakfasts, and we would just do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Friday, they would get 1 breakfast and 1 lunch. And then even later, Sodexo shared with us that it was legal for us to convert from individual meals to more of a grocery style delivery of food. And April can share about that.
Yeah, so the USDA issued several waivers, the first of which is that every school-age student could eat for free. Several others followed to include waiving congregate meals, so students no longer had to eat together in a cafeteria. They could consume a meal at their home. They also waived the fact that you could only eat 1 meal at a time, so that lended itself to bulk meals. So now instead of getting single-serve salads or pre-made sandwiches, you were getting heads of lettuce or half gallons of milk or hamburger patties that were put in a little bag for your family. So we would provide a menu that someone could follow, or your family could use it in a way that they needed as well. So now instead of serving 1 or 2 meals at a time, we were serving 5 breakfast and 5 lunch one day a week off of, 30 different sites that we were delivering from.
Right, we did go to 30 strategically located sites throughout the district to meet people, so no one had to drive more than a couple of miles to get their food. And that continued through the summer. We're one of just a handful of school districts in the state of South Carolina that did start back in August face-to-face. We had maybe about 80% of our students back in schools on August 24th. So the majority of our students transitioned back to eating at school, but we still had 20% of our students at home. And Sodexo has responded by continuing to provide the grocery-style meals for that 20% during this school year, even though the majority of our students are back in schools. But But that's not even back to normal yet. Because of the COVID precautions, we have students eating in their classroom because, one of the, I guess, the biggest no-nos in the COVID pandemic time is not having large groups of students or people in general together. Well, if you think about what a school cafeteria looks like back during your experience, that's a lot of people together in the same room. So we had to transition even there. So now April's cafeteria staff, they're preparing essentially prepackaged lunches and prepackaged breakfasts, and we're sending them to individual classrooms for kids to eat.
Right, and that poses a problem in its own. It's fun and different at first, but cafeterias now are pretty and food is beautiful and they like to spend time with their friends. But now every breakfast and every lunch is served from a box, right? So they're opening the same white box every morning and every lunch. For us, it makes it challenging to make food fun and creative and appealing. So we are very much ready for it to return to a state of normalcy, if that's possible.
Yes, and we are counting on that being possible. We feel like we've kind of turned a corner in that last week. Every employee in the school district of Oconee County, as well as Sodexo staff, had the opportunity to start the vaccine process. So we really feel like that's going to help us turn a corner, and we anticipate August kind of getting back to normal, and that is certainly our hope.